And just like that, we're now just days away from the first pay-per-view event of 2021 and a Conor McGregor fight week of all things. In my last episode from a week ago, I talked about how I believed the atmosphere and the circumstances of Fight Island are conducive to McGregor having an optimal performance, and as the fight draws closer and closer, the more I feel confident about my assertion. I do sometimes wonder if we read too much into what we see in the build-up with the interviews before a big fight, in terms of assessing where each fighter is at mentally and how it's going to factor into the fight itself. But at the same time, I feel like all these interviews and all the behind-the-scenes footage, we just get to see so much and it reveals a lot. Even the most subtle things can say so much. And from every interview I've seen of McGregor so far, he truly seems to be in a better place mentally than we've seen him in quite some time. In terms of what's expected of him, McGregor hasn't had a fight week this relaxed, logistically speaking, since probably his first fight in the UFC. The fans are sorely missed, and I have no doubt that McGregor feeds off them in a big way. But a part of me also feels like he's partly relieved to be in a position such that it allows him to focus on the fight more than anything else. But what the hell do I know? I'm not a psychologist and I don't know what's going on in anybody's head. But it's just a feeling I get from his demeanor this week. Either way, come Saturday, we're going to find out. But one thing I know for sure is that you would have to be insane to sleep on Dustin Poirier. And I feel like a lot of people are doing just that. Maybe it feels this way just because every time McGregor fights, he tends to take up the entire spotlight, but it really seems like a significant percentage of the fan base is already talking about what McGregor's best move is after he wins the fight this weekend. And anybody who's been following MMA for any period of time knows that it's just when an outcome seems like a foregone conclusion that the MMA gods come and put you right back in your place. You always have to be prepared for the apple cart to be tipped over, and despite how their first fight went, there's good reason to think that Poirier could tip it over on Saturday night. Obviously, a whole lot has changed since these two last met in 2014. 6 years is an absolute eternity in MMA, and both McGregor and Poirier have grown and evolved so much since that first meeting. But although it was so long ago, you still have to take it into consideration, no matter how old or small the sample size may be. And in that first fight, McGregor made it look easy. I always believed that one of his best qualities above all else was how composed he is from the very beginning of a fight. His body language is that of someone who is in the same gym he trains at every single day, jumping into a routine sparring session. Poirier, on the other hand, in that fight didn't look so composed. In fact, he looked a little bit too reactive and emotional as the contest got underway. Even back in those days, he wasn't one to get backed up or made to retreat by anybody, and at that point in his career, he hadn't even been KO or TKO'd. The contrast between Poirier's body language and McGregor's was night and day. And right from the very beginning of the fight, McGregor had the edge. And that devastating left hand he has found its way to the temple, and that was the end of it. But again, that was 6 years ago, and both guys are different fighters at different weight classes these days. And in retrospect, taking into consideration Poirier's performance since leaving 145, I do believe that the weight cut had a negative impact on his performances, including his ability to absorb damage. I think very highly of Poirier, not just as a fighter, but as a person. But never mind his personality, all that stuff is meaningless when the cage door shuts. It's his attributes as a fighter that's the most important thing come Saturday night. And aside from his striking prowess of being a technical kickboxer with very straight and clean punches that have only improved as the years gone by, it's his heart that's the biggest proponent of his success in the past, in my opinion. Look no further than the wars he's been in against Dan Hooker, Max Holloway, Eddie Alvarez, Justin Gaethje, and so on. The level of toughness and heart that has carried him through those fights is very rare and certainly very special. But there are only so many of those wars you can go through before your durability begins to diminish. I'm not prepared to say that Poirier's at that stage yet. I think it'll bode well for him that he only fought once last year, even though it was one of those slugfests that he definitely left a piece of himself in the octagon from. But I am saying at this rate, against this level of competition, we're headed in that direction. McGregor, on the other hand, really hasn't taken much of any damage throughout his UFC career when you really think about it, especially not over the past few years, including the loss to Khabib. And for some reason, it's this aspect of the contest, coupled with the fact that I think McGregor is poised to perform better than ever because of the environment he's in, that sticks out to me when it comes to why I believe McGregor is going to win the fight this Saturday. Poirier is nobody's fool or stepping stone, but from where I'm sitting, everything is aligned for a classic Conor McGregor victory at UFC 257.